From the playground to the pros, basketball is woven into the fabric of our society and is so much more than just a game.
The Milwaukee Bucks are champions of the world!
We celebrate the championships and the star players, but the sport's impact goes much deeper. It's the exhilaration of seeing something unique every time you take the court.
Jabari Parker leaves it. That's the future right there.
It can be a solitary game, just a ball and hoop. And with that, I can create my own world, a world where the realities of life just disappear. It's like meditation. When you're alone dribbling, shooting, dreaming, and thinking, you can transverse from present to future and back again. I mean, thoughts can range from the most mundane to the most complex. It is a sport that fills your senses. The sights, playgrounds that make the urban beats of the inner city, vintage small town gymnasiums, a backboard on a barn in the rural Midwest, and sold out crowds at the highest level. The sounds. The melodic echo of a ball dribbling on the court. The singe of a net after a jumper swishing through, and the rocking of a rim from a thunderous dunk. Wow! And the smells of sweat after a thrilling victory or heartbreaking defeat. See, basketball balances the duality of selflessness and individuality, existing as one. The joy of seeing what can be accomplished when a team pulls together. And the thrill of the many one-on-one battles, the artistry within the big picture.
Marques backdoor went by everyone.
It's learning how to operate in the open court, yet understanding how to maneuver in the small confines that the game creates. It's about doing the little things to succeed. Boxing out, setting good screens, hard cuts, and intense defense. Those unknown factors that make it an organic experience to savor long after the clock hits zero.
Middleton!
Yes! It is a sport that is built on maximum effort, with the hardest workers rewarded the most. For the great ones never settle, and the superstars are allowed to shine. It's an outlet for creative expression. I mean, you watch a move by one of your heroes, and then you head to the court with the dream of duplicating that move with your own personal touch.
Good job. Next.
And it's a classroom where life lessons are ingrained from the asphalt to the parquet floor. You have to bounce back from a tough defeat and accept this reality. Even when you do everything right, you still may not win.
Hey, come on, y'all.
It's playing pickup with your buddies.
Hey, let's go that shit.
Or late night shooting under the solitary glow of a single street light. It's shoveling snow off the driveway for one small patch on which to play. It's utilizing a garbage can or fashioning a coat hanger into a cylinder to satisfy that need to simply shoot some hoops.
1, 2, 3.
But most of all, basketball is about the love of the game. To be with a parent, sibling, child, or friend.
That's how you play ball, baby.
That connection with the innocence and youth. The bonds that form as kids from playing on the playground that stay with you for the rest of your life. I'm Marques Johnson, and I love this game.
Hey, how you doing? It is the Jamaica Basketball Project. Welcome to it. Thanks for jumping on with us tonight. Hope you enjoyed that video. I found that on YouTube, and I thought that was pretty cool, and I thought it was an appropriate way to welcome our guest. Before we do that, I'm going to bring in our buddy Rich Mialovich, who is standing by. Richard, how you doing, man?
How are we doing?
I'm good.
I'm a little blurry there. I think I need to clean the lens. I think. Although I feel a little bit. I feel a little bit blurry today.
Yeah.
Just kind of, I'm in a haze a little bit. But anyway, I'm here.
Okay,
I'm here.
cool.
How you doing?
So
Yeah.
I'm excited. We've got our friend Marques Johnson on tonight.
Yeah.
And I think he's standing by, as they say, backstage. I'm going to try to bring him on. I don't see any video, and I don't know if we're going to be audio only or what, but I'm going to bring him on there. MJ, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm not sure how to activate this video. How you doing, man? Let me see if I can figure this out. How do you activate the video on this thing?
I don't know. Are you on your laptop or what?
I'm on a iPad.
Okay.
And I got you guys here, but I don't see any icons to play with the video. But I'll keep.
Scroll down.
I'll keep trying.
Yeah. Play around with it a little bit.
I see audio. I don't see any kind of video. I tried to get it on my desktop, but then it said I didn't have Google, and I know darn well I have Google Chrome, excuse me.
Yeah.
And so I had to switch over to this. You're in the show. Let me see. Add avatar. Upload image. No, I don't want to do that, right? No. So I'm trying, man.
It's all good. I got your picture up on the screen anyway.
Okay.
So we'll
work with that for a minute.
You kind of play with it as you go, and I just wanted to thank you for jumping on.
Okay, my pleasure, man. How you been?
I'm good, man. Are you in LA?
Yeah, I'm in LA. We are here under house arrest. We're doing the whatever it's called.
Quarantine. You working on it there? I think we may have lost him for a second. I'm going to take him off here. Anyway, let me just, what would it be without a little technical difficulty, right, Rich?
Oh yeah, that's where we're at. That's all right. That was a cool video. That was, you got to add, do you know much about that video? What was that about?
No, not really. It looks like maybe it was a preseason that they maybe had done for the Bucks.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. But Marques and I go back about 20 years or so when he was hired by the Sonics to be their color analyst. And he turned out to be about the best in the business, working with a guy who was the best in the business. And it was a pretty cool time. Sonics were the best in the business as well at the time, right?
Yeah.
And you go back to those days and think about that team and then the broadcast team that made it even more special. I'm gonna try to bring him back here. MJ.
Yeah, can you hear me? Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
We'll just go audio. It's okay.
Okay. All right.
You have a face for radio anyway.
That's what I used to say that about Kevin Calabro back in the day. So that's funny.
Yeah. So hey, Marques, we started doing this a few weeks ago, kind of when the whole COVID thing came down, and we were just looking for something to do to kind of cure the boredom a little bit, as well as create awareness for this Jamaica basketball team, this project that we're taking on, trying to make it to the 2024 Olympics in Paris. And so we started doing these live streams, and I wanted to get guys on that not only, not just connected to Jamaica, but also guys that have rich basketball backgrounds, and there's no one that has a richer basketball background than you. And if you indulge me for a minute, I want to tell some of our Jamaican listeners that aren't as dialed into the NBA a little bit about your background. You are a college All-American, college player of the year. You were drafted by the Milwaukee Bucks. You were a 5-time All-Star, a California Hall of Fame member, a Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame member. a Milwaukee Bucks Hall of Fame member, soon to be an NBA Hall of Famer. We have our fingers crossed, hoping. And so, again, I just want to say thanks for doing this, and to have someone with your incredible background and experience and knowledge is awesome to have on.
Yeah, so my pleasure, man. And just so I'll have a point of reference. So we are what's our demographic? Mainly for fans of the Jamaican basketball.
Well, I'll tell you what, we've got a lot of Sonic fans on here tonight. We'll have a lot of people in Jamaica listening and watching, and it's a real mix, man. I try to get the word out to kind of my circle, and we'll have NBA fans on here, and we're going to encourage them to ask questions as we go. So.
Yeah, well, I had a great time in Jamaica in 1983, I believe it was. I was down there for the Sunsplash Reggae Festival.
Oh, cool.
And saw Yellow Man and all kinds of just great old school Jamaican artists. And man, we had a little villa overlooking the water, and it was I went down there with my sisters, and my son Chris was about 7 or 8 years old at that time. So I've got some really good memories, Ocho Rios, the falls, and all the tourist stuff. But so it's all good, man. Jamaica's always been close to me. A big Bob Marley, big reggae fan. A good friend of mine, Neville Garrick, was the artistic director for all of Bob Marley's albums. And he cool. still gets the whole Bob Marley thing out there on social media all the time. So Jamaica's always had I've always had a soft spot in my heart for Jamaica.
Yeah, well, you and me both. I've been doing camps down there for 20 years, and this opportunity presented itself, and I couldn't be more excited about it. And if you're going to do it, why not do it right? So we've set some lofty goals, and we've got some guys that are entering the NBA this year. 3 guys that play at pretty high level of college basketball, and all trying to get drafted this year. One from Seton Hall, one from Kentucky, and then we had the freshman player of the year in the Big Ten, Kofi Coburn.
Wow. Okay. Sure.
Who's entering early, and lots of guys that are playing professionally overseas, and so yeah, the future is bright.
Well, that's the key. I mean, as we talked about, I coached the Belizean national team. A good buddy of mine is the ambassador for the fine arts, Nigel Miguel, who played at UCLA. And so he talked me into coaching the Belizean national team in 2010 for the big, I forget the Caracol, whatever, the big tournament in the summertime in the Dominican Republic.
Right.
And it's all about players, man. I had Milt Palacio, really good player, NBA talent type of a player. Also had another guard by the name of Marlon Garnett, who played in the backcourt with Steve Nash at Santa Clara. He was my best offensive player, but he couldn't play or wouldn't play because he had an insurance issue that the Belizean Basketball Federation never, ever got sorted out. So at the last minute, Rick, he pulled out on me, and he's a guy that was going to give me 30, 35 points a night. He was in great shape, great leader, and that really hurt. But we still went 2-2. We lost to Puerto Rico by 5. They had Carlos Arroyo and J.J. Barea in the backcourt. John Paul's JP somebody, big tall center, about 7'4", in the middle. So it was a good experience. One of the best basketball experiences that I ever had, and I really enjoyed the 6 weeks that I was down there.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that. What was it? There was a 6-week commitment for you. How long did you guys go before you hit the tournament?
Well, we practiced about a good month before we actually hit the big tournament. Played a couple of exhibition games against the Venezuelan national team. It was the craziest thing. I mean, it was just. I mean, the vibes was great. I mean, the stadium was packed. It was outdoors. It was sweltering heat. Kind of partially enclosed stadium down in Belize. I mean, it's better now. I was there a couple of summers ago, but 10 years ago, still a country that was on the lower scale in terms of poverty and all that. But they went all out for the national team, and the vibe in the arena was just off the hook. But the craziest thing was when the Venezuelan coach felt that the officials were calling the game in our favor, he just kind of, pulled his team off the floor. And so I was cool with that. I was like, okay, well, we just sit here and we'll just let him do what he's going to do. We're winning. And so, but my guys all went down there to try and talk to him and rubbed him on the shoulders and all that. And I was like, man, what you guys doing? Well, this is kind of how we do things down here. In Belize, this is, we don't want to have any ill will from our opponents. And it's all about sportsmanship. I'm like, man, forget sportsmanship. We're trying to win this game, man. But he wound up finishing the game out. But it was a great experience, man. But it was the best basketball experience of my life, and had some really, really, really talented players. And I really believe that if our best offensive player, Marlon Garnett, would have played, our best defensive player, a guy by the name of My Vet, he broke his foot like a week before the big tournament, so he couldn't play. And so it was just, you know how it is. Those things happen. And the other thing, Rick, that's funny, I'm sure you're aware of this, but I wasn't completely plugged in about the point differential. And so we were beating Cuba, a good Cuban basketball team, beating them by about 20. And I kind of pulled my main guys out, and we wound up winning by about 12 or 14 in that game. And we wound up losing the point differential to advance into the final round by 2 points to Mexico. Wow. Yeah, to Mexico. Yeah, and so and so it was just inexperience on my part, and my coaching staff didn't really drive the point in enough. A couple of my players were trying to tell me we need to beat it by 30. I was like, we're up by 20. That's good enough. 20's fine. I don't want to start an international incident and be like the Bay of Pigs over here. Let's be satisfied with a double figure victory and get out of here.
Yeah.
And so, but it came back to bite us. We finished 2-2. And Cuba was 2-2, and they got to advance because of the whole overall, or Mexico, I think that they got to advance because of the overall point differential. But it was a great experience, man. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I better get dialed into the point differential because I know some of these tournaments, they have the maximum point differential. I don't know whether that's changed since 2010 or not.
Yeah, so. So it's all if you're kicking ass, don't take your foot off the accelerator, man. Just keep kicking butt and hey, let the and sportsmanship be damned, I guess. But I learned a valuable lesson from that when I was there. Other lessons I learned too. Another lesson I learned quickly is that, and a friend of mine who was coaching, he's the son of Maxine Waters, great congresswoman, but he coaches at Crenshaw High School, and we've been best friends since we were like 11 years old, and coached a lot of AAU ball. And so I was talking to him about my team and the chemistry, and we had a bunch of guys like you'll have. There was a bunch of guys who were United States guys. We had a bunch of really good players who were local guys. One guy named Puppy was a nickname, but he was asking me about the local guys, and he was telling me that the one thing that I had to really try and plug into was that the local guys have a little bit more of a not so much of a commitment, but it's more of a feeling in terms of representing that country. And whereas the American guys are getting paid substantially more money to participate, and so not that they played hard, but these local guys would really, just sell out completely. And I think I got more caught up in playing the guys who had played in the NBA or played college basketball in the States, and some of my hardest hustlers and grimy type of players, blue collar guys, were my local guys, and I really wish I would have played them a lot more in certain situations. But hey, we live and we learn.
Yeah, they changed the rule a couple of years ago to where you can't have, I call them basketball mercenaries. That just kind of they find a Belizean passport or a Jamaican passport or a Costa Rican passport. You have to actually be born in the country now, as of a couple of years ago. You can have one of those naturalized guys on your team, but I think it's a great rule change, because of just all the things you were just talking about, because
I like that too. I like that. I mean, I like that. That's to me, that's the way it should be. It just kind of makes it more authentic in terms of as opposed to just bringing guys in who may have a great grandmother who was from Belize, which there are a lot of kids like that in LA. So. Yeah, but it was a good experience, man. Good experience.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't know if you heard me at the top of it, but also, can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so you see that my buddy Rich Mialovich is on with us as well. So he may pipe in with a question here and there as well.
Okay.
So did you take anything, some may not know about your UCLA background, but you played for probably the best coach of all time in John Wooden. Did you think about him while you were coaching and try to take some of his things, or do you go your own way?
Here's what happened, man. I went to see Coach Wooden before I left for Belize in probably May, I believe it was, and asked him if he could just kind of tell me one thing to take with me as a coach. What was the most important thing to remember about coaching? And without hesitation, Coach Wooden told me, to love my players. He said, you gotta love your players and make sure you love them. Now, you may not like all of them. You may not like all of them because they're gonna be, a whole bunch of different personalities and individuals and all that stuff. But you gotta love these guys as people. And so this was maybe late May, within probably 2 or 3 weeks in early June of 2010, Coach Wooden died. And I was able to fly home from Belize for his funeral for a quick 2 or 3 day trip. And the craziest thing, when I flew to Los Angeles from Belize for those 2 or 3 days, they had one of the worst kind of tropical storm hurricanes that they'd had in 20 years. And so I missed that. But with Coach Wooden, I mean, that's what I tried to. Coach Wooden, I tried to take a lot of his psychological type of approaches to basketball, and not beat the guys over the head with it, but basically just get ourselves ready. Don't get overly concerned about whatever competition we're going to have to play. We had a nice 4-week, 3 to 4 weeks of practice twice a day. That really helped us get prepared. And I just kind of pulled from the different coaches that I had been around and had played for. Don Nelson was coaching Golden State at that time, and he gave me their playbook, defensive, offensive playbook, terminology, defensive schemes and rotations and the whole bit. So I used some of that, used some other stuff from Lorenzo Romar was at Washington, I believe, at that time. Got some of his stuff that he was doing, and just tried to have a mixture of different philosophies to go along with how I wanted to approach the game. And good time. I think the funny part about it, you guys still got me here, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I want to make sure I'm not just rambling on and talking to nobody. Now, here's the crazy part.
Yeah.
So the coach who had coached the Belizean national team, Kevin Soroki, he's coaching at Westminster D3 team back east in Pennsylvania somewhere now. But so he really wanted the head job, right? And so they decided to bring me down. Paid me well, put me up in a beautiful hotel right on the water down there. But one of the things they wanted me to do was to hire Kevin Soroki, which I did. Okay, you want me to hire the guy? I'll hire the guy. Mm-hmm. Nice guy. But I come to find out that his wife was so pissed off that he had gotten passed over that she was just killing me on Facebook. And I wasn't really into social media that much at that time. So my son, Chris, out in Los Angeles, he knew what I was doing. He was helping me too with some things. And so he's like, Dad, you got to check out this Facebook stuff. I was like, what do you mean? So she was just killing me. And the people in Belize were there. She was trying to convince them that it was a bad move. And after I gotten down there, I went on a talk show early in the morning, and it was hot, sweltering heat down there. And so I worked out earlier that morning, went to do this kind of, Good Morning America type of talk show they had in Belize. And so the studio was hot. I'm sweating like a pig. And the first question that the host asked me was like, well, what makes you think you're qualified to coach? According to Facebook, the people here don't know if you're qualified. And so I walked into this ambush, man. I'm sweating like a pig, and they're grilling me. So I know the visual must have been crazy. I wanted to cuss the dude out and get up and walk away, but that's not my style. And so my point is that it was some other elements that were going on. The players, for the most part, were on board. But it was some dissension going on, you know what I mean, between and I had to. So what I learned is you got to be careful who you bring on staff. Make sure it's somebody that is totally with you, on board with you, loyal to you 100%. And another guy I hired through the suggestion of Chip England. I called Chip England, the assistant coach for the San Antonio Spurs. Been knowing him since he's like 12, 13 years old. Great shooting coach. And so I was talking to him about just kind of the approach to take with the Belize national team. So he suggested that I hire one of the guys from their D League at the time organization, Alex Lloyd, and he was just the best hire in the world. He printed out the beautiful playbooks, and everything was done like the Spurs do it down in San Antonio. It was a graphics, just genius. And so, but I called him I called him the boy genius, as a matter of fact. But it was really a great hire. So to make sure you hire, somebody or people that are totally supportive and loyal to you, because when you've got that kind of dissension in the camp, man, it becomes cancerous. And when things got tough in our last game against Puerto Rico, some emotions were coming out, and it got real tight. It got real tight and tense. So just make sure you go down there, man, in Jamaica, and have people that you feel good about and know that they got your back is really important. Yeah, I do, and I have a really good staff of guys, and I know they have my back, and I have their back, and yep. Yeah, we'll move forward with that in a good way. You made me think of something though. You told me about checking in with Coach Wooden and say, hey, I'm going down to Belize. Do you have any advice? And when I left the Sonics, I'm not sure whether I've had this conversation with you already or not, but when I left the Sonics, on my way out the door, I ran into George Karl in the elevator, and I said, George, today's my last day. And he said, oh, is that right, Carter? Because, he obviously didn't know my name. But I go, I'm gonna pursue a coaching career. What advice? I asked him the same question you asked Coach Wooden, basically. What can you tell me? And this is telling, I think. I'm anxious to hear your opinion on this. What he said to me was, your players have to hate you. A little different than what Coach Wooden told you. Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, it's interesting because, I went through, a couple of periods down in Belize during our kind of conditioning phase where I was just running the crap out of these guys, and they were hating me. I went up because we were having a bad practice. And so I just made them run in sweltering heat. And and guys, I remember Milt Palacio later that night was cramping up so bad they didn't know if he was going to live. They were like, man, we need to call the doctors because he's And so I played the role. I was like, well, Coach, you want to come by his room and check on him? Like, no, I'm not coming by his room to check it on him. If he can't take a little running, he's not going to be ready to play. But if we need to call a doctor, make sure you get a doctor for him. Don't let him die. But But so there are times, when you've got to create that kind of environment. Now that's funny what you say about George, because I came out to where the Sonics did, maybe the Beverly Hilton, maybe in the Marina.
Marina Del Rey.
Yeah, Ritz-Carlton or something in the Marina. I actually sat down with George to interview for that job that Dwayne Casey wound up getting. So I got my sweatsuit on, I got my diamond stud in my ear. We're talking basketball. And so I didn't get the job, obviously, which is almost a blessing in disguise, kind of working with Kevin Calabro. But George told me later, why he didn't hire me is because he didn't want a guy who wore an earring on his staff.
No.
It was just the craziest thing. Wow. But George, he told me about his philosophy of creating in practice and training camp, kind of a gym rat environment. And if you've been to Sonic practices with Gary Payton and the trash talking and Nate and Sean Kemp and Detlef and some of the guys and the competitive spirit, you get that sense of what his approach was and what he created. So that was something positive that I took from him. Now, you got to be tough on guys. You got to be tough on guys, and it's got to be no nonsense and all that good stuff. But to me, I don't think you need to get them worked up to the point where they've actually got actual hatred for you. But George is a great coach. He's won a lot of games, and it's obviously served him well in terms of his approach.
Yeah, I always took it from him, not in a literal sense. I always took it from him as like, you just can't be friends.
Right.
There's got to be a coach-player line, and even if that's not what he meant, that's what I took from it. So
yeah, that's what he meant. Because George, and you think about his relationship. Let's take Gary Payton, for example. And I tell this stuff to people, Rick, and they just don't believe it. They look at me incredulously when I tell them that George would take Gary out of a game, and Gary's like, "What the f are you doing, mf'er?" George's like, "Well, you're playing like crap out here." Well, you BS, mf'er, blah, blah. And they would just be calling each other's, just crazy cussing outs, right there in front of us at the broadcast table, in front of all the people sitting courtside. And so, but it was just kind of this understanding between the two of them that this is how they were going to go at it. So it's not for everybody. Everybody can't exist in an environment like that, but some guys need their fire fueled to that extent. And George kind of understood his guys and the kind of guys he wanted, and tough guys and tough-minded guys, and that could take it. And so he was good at creating that environment. And again, the Sonics, we won 64 games, I believe, that year. We got to the finals against the Bulls. So it did indeed serve him well.
Yeah. And that's just it. You're not going to have the same kind of relationship from one guy to the next. I think if you're doing it right, you're going to know how to push the buttons and how to get guys to react to, the whip or the carrot, the stick or the carrot. Have you been watching The Last Dance?
Yeah, but quickly, Coach Whitten used to always say he doesn't treat all his players the same because they're not the same. And as you just touched on, Rick, you got to know who to kick in the butt, who to pat on the back, who can take it, who can't. And to segue into The Last Dance is a perfect example of Michael Jordan. He talked about his approach with Scotty Burrell, just a nice guy. And so he was going to do everything he could in his power, Michael Jordan, to get him worked up, to get him to the point where he wants to fight Michael Jordan. You saw some of the footage of elbows and jostling for position. And so, yeah, I mean, that's coaching. And that's what you call coaching a guy up. When you get them to that point where you bring out another side to their basketball personality. And that's the beauty of coaching and working with players.
Let me. I've got to show you this. This is. Hopefully you can hear this. I guess. Tell me if you can't. This is my favorite part from The Last Dance, and hopefully you can see it. Here we go.
And I kept hitting him and banging him and hitting him and banging him. It took a toll on Mike. It took a toll, and then I feel myself resting him a little bit, and then the series changed. And I wish I could have did it earlier. I don't know if the outcome would have been different, but it was a difference and beating him down a little bit.
The glove. I had no problem with the glove.
What do you think? How do you think Gary's reaction to Michael's reaction was?
It's just, I mean, it's perfect, right? He's talking shit right there, and you can tell Jordan looking at it. You can tell it bothers him. I think it bothers him. Maybe I'm wrong, but it bothers him, and the only way he can react to it is to laugh at it. But yeah, I got the feeling Gary gets under his skin a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know to what extent. I mean, Michael Jordan is Michael Jordan, and 6 champions, just what he was able to accomplish. Gary did play him well, I believe, at least one game in that series, and that was reflected by Michael's shooting percentage in that series. But I don't know about you, Rick, but just watching that series, from what I recall, being up close and personal, I never got this. We got down with 3-0 in that series, I believe. You just never got the sense that the Sonics really had a chance in hell of winning that thing after, especially, you're down 3-0. I mean, so they showed a lot of guts to come back and win the 2 and send it back to Chicago for Game 6. But I always felt like the Bulls were kind of in control pretty much all the way. And so, yeah, I mean, I love Gary, being Gary. And look, I told George Karl, look, I'm guarding. I got Michael. And that's typical Gary. And it did have an impact, I believe, for a couple of games. But the Bulls were going to win that series, I believe. I think Gary made the comment that if he would have guarded him right out the gate, if that would have changed things. Michael would have got pissed off. Michael would have went off for 50 or 60, and he would have done what it would have taken to make sure that his team did not come out on the short end of the stick. But give the glove. I mean, I love Gary. I love Gary. We love Gary, and we watched him in some of his great years in Seattle, and he was he's probably the second best guard in the league behind Michael Jordan in his heyday, averaging 20 and 10, and with the lock 'em up defense that he played. So yeah, but he was a character, true character.
Yeah, that Last Dance, man, it makes me recall stuff that I had totally forgotten about. And one of those is it hasn't given Scottie Pippen a great look. You think?
Well, just the one. Well, yeah, you're right. The contract issue. That was kind of what was going on at the time. The Knicks series not going in. That was the worst thing. I mean, the petulance and immaturity that he showed during that little stretch without Michael and Tony Kukoc and the shots drawn up for him. But I mean, at the same time, as a ball player myself, and I think guys who played the game at the highest level, you have nothing but respect and admiration for Scottie Pippen, and you know how valuable he was to the Bulls winning those 6 championships. Now they could have done it without Michael Jordan. That was evident when Michael was gone for the years, but you don't do it, I don't think, without Scottie Pippen being who he is either on that basketball team in terms of the role that he fulfilled.
Yeah. Remind me, if I catch you off guard here, I'm sorry, but did Don Nelson coach the Lithuanian team, or what was his involvement there? Maybe it was Donnie Nelson.
Donnie had connections. I'm not sure if he actually coached. I know he spent a lot of time. He's the one that kind of established the relationship with Sharunas Marciulionis.
Yeah.
And he brought him over here when I was actually a member of the Golden State Warriors in 1989. It was Sharunas's first year. And one of the funniest things is so I mean, Sharunas speaks Russian and Lithuanian, whatever the language is, and so there was this major communication barrier, and Donnie Jr. didn't speak any Russian or Lithuanian or whatever, right. And so Nelly Sr. tells Nelly Jr. tell him to run through the pick hard, and so Nelly Jr. pantomimes a run. You've got to run. He pantomimes a run through, kind of pushes with his arms through the. When he gets to pick, he picks his nose through the pick. Through the pick, he picks his nose harder, makes the face harder, and Nelly looks at him and says, hell, I could have done that. Nelly's like, hell, I could have done that. What was that about? I thought you don't speak any of the language. Oh, no, Dad, I don't. Oh, Jesus, So, but that was the year that we had the big earthquake. It was right before the Oakland A's San Francisco Giants World Series. I just ordered a whole big, crazy crab dinner from this place right across the street from the Oakland Hilton near the airport. And right before I was going to run over there to pick up my food, settle down and watch the game at 5:30. It's about 5:15. All of a sudden, the hotel starts shaking. Oh, wow. And that's what we had, the big hotel, the big earthquake. And then you go outside, and it was like World War III. I mean, just smoke, and the phone lines were down, and people were listening on their car radios to what was going on. And Marciulionis actually convinced Don Nelson Jr. to take him to the freeway, I think the 880 freeway, where it had collapsed. So they went out there and helped dig some people out, and they were on the scene because Sharunas had been through so much in terms of being in a war-torn country and seeing some stuff like that before. So, yep. So anyway,
tell me about, because I was kind of looking at your career and stuff, and you finished with the Warriors. Were you out 2 full seasons?
Man, I hurt my neck in November 20th of 1986. I got a rebound with the Clippers, went to push it up the floor. I ran into my teammate Benoit Benjamin, and I always joked that he was at the Sonics for a minute. Last thing I remember seeing was 2 big zeros. I ruptured, hit him right in the midsection and ruptured. He just standing there like a big oak tree. So I snapped my neck back. I went paralyzed in the upper body for about, it seemed like 5 minutes, probably closer to 2. Right, my arms are just locked. So I went down. They carried me out on the stretcher. So I had a ruptured disc in my neck between C3 and C4 vertebrae. Got a bunch of medical opinions. You can't play. You need a spinal fusion. Maybe you can play. And so I sat out 2.5 years and got in great shape. I would always get in great shape in the summer, but then would kind of back off when it came time to actually trying to play again.
Mm-hmm.
And so after that second year, I got in great shape. So I was running with Vlade Divac and Marques Johnson and Byron Scott and Worthy and all these guys up at UCLA. And so Magic came up to me. He's like, "So man, what you gonna do?" I was like, "What do you mean?" He said, "I mean, you gonna play or what?" I was like, "I don't know, man. What do you think?" He's like, "Man, you should play. You still got something left. You still got something left." I was like, "All right." So I called up Nelly and it's like, "Look, man, I've been playing, been working out. I don't know where I am, but I'd like to at least take a look." And so he said, "Okay, we'll fly you up here. You can. This is before training camp around late August. Once you come up here, play with our guys for a week or so, and see how it goes." Flew up there with Chris Mullen and Mitch Richmond and Rod Higgins and Tim Hardaway was a rookie, and Manute Bowl used to call me the old vet. But I went up there and played with them for a week, and Nelly's like, "Hey, come to camp. You look good." So I went to camp, played with the Warriors for the first 10 games, but then we got a string of injuries between Alton Lister, Manute, all our big guys got hurt. And so Nelly was like, "Look, I gotta make some room, roster spot for a big guy." And truth be told, I'd been out 2.5 years, man. And just truth be told, I had this lingering neck situation. It wasn't really an injury at that point, but I was concerned. So that affected my aggressiveness. There was rust. I was 33 years old, out 2.5 years, and I always joke with this guy, Rod Higgins. From Fresno State. He was 25, 26 at the time, but this dude was just wearing my ass out every day in practice. And I always, he was just killing me. And we were going at it. I was giving him some too, but he was just, but I just could not kind of master him and dominate him like I felt I should. And so Nelly let me know that they had to make a move, and he was going to set me up through Warren Legary, the great agent, with a team over in Italy if I wanted to continue playing. And so I went over to Italy, played a season over there, had a great time. Like I said, I ate and drank myself out of Italy. The wine and the food was so good. Yeah. But it let me. We were playing twice a week. My point is, we were playing twice a week. I was tired, averaging 25 a game, but I thought initially I could play over there another 5 years, make great money. But after that one season, man, I was done. My mind, everything was just ready to move on. And it gave me some closure is the point that I was trying to make. I was just looking for closure. I didn't want to go with just wondering if I could have played in the NBA, could have played more basketball. And that last season kind of helped me get some closure on the basketball aspect of my life.
Yeah, one of our assistants, Russ Shaney, I don't know if you know Russ.
Sure.
He had a really good career in Italy.
Yeah, Russ played.
Over there.
He was there when I was there. He was there. He was a Sixer. He and Mark Ivoroni were like rookies with the Sixers together back in the early '80s. When, we would battle.
We lost Marcus. Right in the middle of our Russ Shaney story. when he checks back, you're going to ask him a question. But you know what? I want to ask him a little bit about just playing for John Wooden and what that was like, and hopefully we can get him to check back in here. But he's great, man. Lots of just the guy.
Crazy stories.
He's basketball royalty, and he's got stories, 50 years worth of great basketball stories.
Yeah, for sure. Was he he was broadcasting with Calabro for a couple of years? Few years? How many years? Was it a while? I can't. They're all running together.
I'm going to say it's like 6 or 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that was through the NBA, through the championship, or through this 96.
Beyond it as well. So we'll see if we can get him back in here. Here he is. Bring him back.
You got me?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I got disconnected here.
No, it's all good. I don't want this to make this a "this is your life" deal by any means, but there's just some questions after 20 years that I haven't had a chance to ask. And so if you'll indulge me, I'm going to ask you a couple of them, okay?
Okay, let's do it.
Tell me, what was it like did you grow up wanting to be a Bruin? I would imagine so. And then what was that like to have John Wooden knock on your door?
Yeah, no, so yeah, I mean, I grew up in Los Angeles, moved out here in 1961, so I followed the Bruins in 64, 65 with Hazard and Goodrich, and then watched Kareem's game his freshman year when in 1966 when they beat the defending national champions of UCLA by 20. A lot of the guys had gone on and they weren't the same team. No Gail Goodrich, obviously. And some other guys, Fred Slaughter, but Keith Erickson. But so followed Kareem through his career. And then in the late 60s, when I'm 13, 14 years old, Dick Enberg is the doing play-by-play and color, just one guy in the booth, one guy at the table. Mm-hmm. And so he's calling UCLA's replay games on local TV here in L.A., Channel 5 at 11 o'clock on Friday and Saturday nights. So that just solidified Sidney Wicks, Curtis Rowe, all those great, Henry Bibby, those great players. And so that just kind of solidified, I think Coach Wooden had won about 8 championships, 5 or 6 in a row, 8, 9 years. So by the time I was at Crenshaw in 73 and they came to recruit me, it was pretty much a done deal. One of the things that really, really solidified the deal was they played Memphis State in 1973 in St. Louis for the national championship, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm at home watching that game with my dad. So the game ends, and I swear to God, within 15 minutes, maybe sooner, maybe 10 to 15 minutes, the phone in the den rings. My father answers the phone like, okay, hold on. Yeah, he's right here. He hands me the phone. It's for you. I get on the phone. I'm like, hello? He's like, Marcus, this is Coach Wooden. Did you watch the game? I was like, yes, Coach. He's like, well, we love for you to be a part of this next year. Do you think you want to be a part of something like this? I was like, yes, Coach. Yes, Coach.
Yeah.
So
that's how you do it.
Obviously they had it prearranged, but it caught me totally off guard, and so things like that. But even if it wouldn't have happened, obviously they were right in the midst of a 60-plus game win streak. The Bill Walton gang team with Jamal Wilkes had won 30-0 their sophomore year, 30-0 their junior year. I got to them their senior year. So we wound up winning, I think, 88 straight games before Notre Dame beat us back in South Bend my freshman year. But I started a handful of games my freshman year, and just playing for Coach Wooden, man, and playing for that kind of talent. We were kind of it's the old cliche about being rock stars and just the media hordes wherever we went, and fans, just trash talking. And I remember we were in I believe it was Seattle playing against Washington, or no, I think it was Oregon State. We lost both games that my freshman year, but before we came out, as we were running out to the floor, the PA announcer said, "Ladies and gentlemen, the descending national champions." We, I think, lost the night before to Oregon State. So that next game, so it was just stuff like that continually happening. But the characters on that team, Bill Walton in particular, Greg Lee, the point guard, was just a brilliant basketball mind. But Bill Walton, man, just playing with him as a freshman. When we would have trouble rebounding, and that was my forte, rebounding, even as a freshman, he'd run by the bench and yell at Coach Wooden, "Get Marcus in here! Get Marcus in here right now!" I start unbuttoning my sweatpants, and Coach Wooden invariably within a minute or within seconds would say, Marcus, get in there, get Pete, but it was just, it was a great experience. The year I thought we won a national championship was my freshman year, because we were loaded. Dave Myers, Jamal Wilkes, Bill Walton. We didn't win it that year. We lost to North Carolina State and David Thompson in overtime back in Greensboro, North Carolina, in the semifinals. But that next year, my sophomore year, was the year that we won it, and won Coach Wooden his 10th and final championship over a 12-year period. So it was.
That's what I was going to ask you. That's what I was going to ask you. You lose all those seniors, and then you come back the next year and win the national championship.
Well, and so here's the deal: the inside baseball part of it was that the Friday before practice started on a Monday, I came down with hepatitis, and I had worked that summer going into my sophomore year harder than I'd ever worked. I shed all the baby fat. I was just a physical specimen. Wayne Embry, who was the general manager of the Bucks at that time, he came out to UCLA and saw me play against a bunch of pros, and he made a public pronouncement that I was the best forward that he had seen in America, college or pro, just watching me play for 3 or 4 days. But I came down with hepatitis, lost 20 pounds in about 5 days, and never was quite the same. I tell people, I told my son I was never quite the same the rest of my career. It was always a fatigue issue that I never had after that illness. But I did wind up playing that year. Had a really solid season, but not the kind of year that I wanted. But as it turned out, great teammates in Dave Myers. He was our leader, our captain, first team All-American. Richard Washington was a sophomore from Portland, who wound up being the most outstanding player in the Final Four that year, 28 against Kentucky and Louisville in the Final Four. I had some good moments, 35 against Arizona State in the Western Regional Finals. I was Western Regional MVP. That sophomore year was the year it all came together. Andre McCarter, great point guard out of Overbrook High School, where Wilt Chamberlain went to school. He played all 40 minutes, had I think 15 assists in the championship game against Kentucky in 1975. But the thing is that Coach Wooden told us after we beat Louisville in the semis, Junior Bridgman, Wesley Cox, some great players on that team, Denny Crum, Coach Wooden's former assistant, was the head coach. Coach told us, after we beat Louisville in overtime, we were all excited. Pipe down. I got something to tell you guys. Look, I thought about this, and after the Kentucky game on Monday night, I'm going to retire. That'll be my last game as a coach. And so we got together. Andre McCarter brought us together. We were like, man, there's no way in the world we're going to let Coach Wooden not go out as a national championship. It's just not going to happen. And as it turned out, he played 6 players that night. I was the only guy that of the starters, the only guy that came out. I played 28 minutes, I believe, but everybody else played 40. I split time with Ralph Drollinger, 7'2" center, who was sporadic in terms of his effectiveness that season, but he had the best stretch of minutes, a 12-minute stretch of his career. And I was happy for him, and it was a total team effort, and I wound up giving Coach Wooden that final championship that he so well deserved. That's cool, and you checked all the boxes there, because that I was going to ask you about all of that stuff. What about how tough was it? I mean, that's dumb. Let me rephrase that. It must have been almost impossible to try for Gene Bartow to step into those shoes the next year, even though he had a pretty successful year. Well, Coach Bartow was 52-9 over the 2 years he coached UCLA, but it was impossible to replace John Wooden. And when you couple that with the approach, the basketball approach, the stylistic approach, Coach Wooden was all about teamwork. Coach Bartow used to always tell me, and I wish I would have listened, but he's like, look, Marcus, you're shooting 58% from the field. I need you shooting 25, 30 times a game. And I'm like, damn, Coach, really? He's like, I want you to shoot 25 times a game. But we weren't used to that approach. But like I said, I wish I'd have listened at that point. And the other thing is this: so Coach Wooden never ever, only Kentucky. The championship game Monday night. On that Sunday, we walked through at our team breakfast at the hotel some of the stuff we were going to do defensively against Kentucky. That was the only time that season we'd ever talked about the opponent for the next game. Coach Bartow, very first game before we played Indiana. We played Indiana, Kent Benson, Quinn Buckner, Scott May, that crew, Tom Abernathy, playing them on national TV at the Checker Dome in St. Louis. So we're playing against Indiana. He hands out like a 25 to 30-page scouting report on Indiana. And not only a scouting report, but he's a guy with a lot of Southern kind of homespun type energy, Coach Bartow. So there were lines in that scouting report like Wayne Radford. He's so tough, he'll fight a buzzsaw. Kid Benson, meaner than a junkyard dog. And so I remember kind of leafing through this. And my teammate Gavin Smith, who was murdered a couple of years ago, but Gavin Smith and Gavin's kind of this Valley Beach Boy type dude, but he looks over at me, he's like, "What the hell?" And I look at him, but so just that was kind of how we got started. So it was never this complete acceptance of the approach of Coach Bartow, and then the media, they got on him so tough. They killed him. It got to the point where we'd sit at a team breakfast, and I'd have an LA Times. I'd be reading the sports section, and Coach Bartow would say, "Marcus, what did it say about our game last night?" And I'd be like, "Coach, here, you can have the paper." No, I swear I'd never touch a LA paper as long as I live. As bad as they've been talking about me, can you read it to me? So I said at the breakfast, I'd read it to him. The last night the Bruins were, so it was just a crazy pressure pack. They threatened, there were threats made against him, his family, his dog. I mean, it was all kinds of just craziness going on, and so what happened. And me and my dad. So now you fast forward 2 years later, my senior year, we'd gotten upset by Idaho State, really good Idaho State team had beaten us. But I was in New York to receive the Player of the Year award from Sport Magazine. We're staying at the Plaza Hotel right near Central Park, and so me and my dad are there, and so we're in our hotel room, sharing a room, sleep. About 1 o'clock in the morning, there's a knock on the door. I open up the door, and it's Coach Bartow. He's got this top hat on, this fedora, kind of Humphrey Bogart hat deal. He's got a trench coat with the collar pulled up, these dark shades, and he's just in a panic. And he's saying how he had been offered this job down in Birmingham that didn't have a basketball program, and the media had found out, and they were just hounding him. They wouldn't leave him alone, and he just didn't know what to do. And he's lost 25 pounds, and so we like, Coach, look, man, you need to go ahead and make this move. It's just, if it's affecting your health and your family as bad as it appears to, you need to go ahead and get out of here. So, all that to say that it was a tough job for him, and it was tough for, I think Gary Cunningham replaced him for 2 years. Larry Brown came after that for 2, maybe 3 years. So it was this revolving door of coaches that UCLA's really never ever, until Ben Holland got there, kind of really righted that ship. And Jim Herrick did a great job too when he was there.
Let me you touched on Kent Benson, and that brings me to my next dumb question for you. Is I have to imagine that Kent Benson is the reason you ended up with number 8.
Well, I never liked 54 anyway. I wasn't in 54. I was 35 at Crenshaw High School. 3 and 5 is 8. I'm born on February 8th, and I actually told the Bucks. It's funny. They're at the time general manager John Steinmiller. We were talking, and so I was like, "Yeah, I got one request for you in terms of number." And I could see this look on his face, like, "Oh boy, here we go. It's got to be some conflict with 54." I said, "Look, I want to wear number 8, if that's okay." He's like, "Oh no, that's great. And so I wanted nothing to do with 54. I mean, it served me well at UCLA, but it was given to me. In my choice, I would have had 53, which is 5 and 3, 8.
Yeah.
But Kent, great guy. We got along great, but I always felt that I should have been the number 1 pick in that draft. I think there was some at that time. It was 1977. Kent Benson was this great college player his junior year. His senior year, he was hurt a lot. Mm-hmm. And Quinn Buckner, my teammate, told me that he told Don Nelson, "Look, you better be careful about drafting Kent number 1. He's not 6'11". He came in and measured about 6'8.5", 6'9". And but anyway, I was pissed off. So I wasn't the number 1 pick. I was number 3 in that draft. And
who went to?
Otis Birdsong.
That's right. Yeah. Okay.
So he goes to Kansas City. Now my college teammate Richard Washington is in Kansas City. And he tells them that, "Look, you guys, you need to draft Marcus. I'm telling you, he's the best player in this draft. Blah blah blah." And they tell him that Scott Wedman, who was a really good forward for them, he was an all-star, but we like Scott Wedman at the small forward. We need a 2 guard and some outside shooting, and that wasn't my strength at that time. So they stayed with Wedman. But I wound up the Bucks traded Swin Nader to Buffalo to get the 3rd pick in the draft. Swin Nader was a guy that could give you 15 points and 13 rebounds on just as an average. And I always felt like if they would have taken me 1 and kept Swin, what might have happened. But hey, it's all good. Everything works out how it's supposed to work out.
Yeah.
Hey,
I replaced Scott Wedman in Great Falls, Montana, in the CBA.
You did what?
I replaced Scott Wedman as a coach.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah,
okay, cool.
The Great Fall Explorers.
No way.
That's what didn't George Karl coach there, didn't he?
He did. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. George. We played an exhibition game in Great Falls, and it was October, and it was as cold. Man, that place was one of the coldest places on the face of the earth. I mean, Great Falls was cold. I remember that. Yeah.
No, I told you I replaced him mid-season, and I got off the plane, and it was probably early December, I think, and it was about midnight, and I got off the plane in Great Falls, and it was minus 40 wind chill.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Rich.
Welcome. Oh no, I was going to ask. What was the NBA draft like in 1977? I mean, it wasn't a big televised event like it is these days. I imagine.
Funny you asked that, Rich. I mean, I was just talking to my mom about Mother's Day. I remember that poster about a while, but he had this lowly assistant that every time I would call the agency to talk to Donald Dell, they would pass me along to this lowly assistant, and it would piss me off, you know. And so it got to the point. I'm like, look, I want to talk to Donald. Well, he's not available now. You got to talk to the lowly assistant. And so I wound up getting so pissed off that I wound up firing and moving on to another agent. And so that lowly assistant turned out to be David Falk.
Oh wow.
That was David Falk when he was first getting started. And so when David and I we joke about it today, because David told me when that happened, it toughened him up and made him realize that he had to really fight for clients. They just kind of let me walk away, and that really toughened him up as an agent and made him realize he had to, get a higher profile and really fight for his clients. But the draft, you mentioned the draft. So man, my mom were talking about this on Mother's Day. She's like, now what did they do for the draft back then? I don't remember. I was like, well, Mom, they didn't do anything. You're at home. You may have gotten a call, you may have not. It wasn't televised. As a matter of fact, somebody posted a picture on Twitter of Larry O'Brien had kind of an easel-like grease board with the names kind of just haphazardly written up there in terms of draft pick team. He was writing them as the selections were made. So totally different vibe back in those days. But you
obviously had talked teams that you had talked to teams, but you didn't know for sure where you were going to go, and you just said, okay, I'm waiting for a phone call kind of deal.
Well, Don Nelson came out and talked to me, and we met. He told me that they had the number one pick. They were going to draft Kent Benson. There was a good chance that Kansas City was going for Otis Birdsong, who averaged 30 a game at Houston that year, great shooting guard, and that they wanted to move up to number 3, and he just wanted to know that if they did that, would I have any qualms about playing in Milwaukee? And I'd never been to Milwaukee. The only thing I knew about Milwaukee was Laverne and Shirley and Happy Days. It looked like a quaint enough town to me. And so I knew Kareem had been there and had some success, and didn't really care too much about the city culturally. But for me, I wasn't about to make any waves, make any demands. That was a time when, there was some concern. It's interesting because, see, the year before I was going to go hardship as a junior to the Denver Nuggets right before the ABA-NBA merger. Denver, Carl Shear, we had come to an agreement on a contract. They were going to sign me $200,000 a year for 5 years without going through the draft. So David Thompson, Bobby Jones, Dan Issel just signed me, no draft, right before the merger. Detroit had the 3rd pick in that 1976 draft. Their coach was Herb Brown. Larry Brown was coach of the Nuggets, brothers, right? And so Herb, I guess, talked to Larry. Larry told him, we're going to sign Marques Johnson right out of UCLA, no draft, blah, blah, blah. So Herb told his people in management with the Pistons, they told the NBA offices. The NBA offices said that if the Nuggets made that move, that it was going to affect the merger adversely. That may throw the whole thing off. They couldn't willy-nilly just sign guys without them going through the proper procedure. And so the Nuggets had to back off. And from what I understand, I found out years later that Larry and Herb didn't talk to each other for like 20 years behind that, because Larry thought that Herb went behind his back and just destroyed their confidence and all that. So anyway, so Don Nelson came out, talked to me. Told him that I'd have no problem playing in Milwaukee. I was just happy to be going to the NBA, playing in the league and playing with the franchise that had won a championship, and playing for Coach Don Nelson, who I had followed his career. He was a Laker in the 60s, a great great Celtic reserve and role player when he was with the Boston Celtics, and he actually turned out to be a really good coach for me in terms of giving me all the red Auerbach type of approach to running on the fast break and things of that nature. So
cool, Marques. So you've been really generous with your time, and you need to let me know if you've got to go. But there's a couple more things I want to ask you. When you saw,
can you hear me?
Yeah, when you saw Jordan say that.
Hello.
Are you not hearing me?
Yeah, I got you now. Okay. Hello.
Well,
okay.
When you heard Jordan say you were his favorite player, did that surprise you, or had you heard that before?
Well, so here's my, I'm like a organ grinder monkey. You just wind me up and and so here's the deal with that. Okay. No, so when they started filming the movie Space Jam out here in Los Angeles, Warner Brothers Studio, they built this immaculately constructed indoor basketball facility for Michael Jordan, weight machines, gambling tables, boombox music, Queen Latifah, Angela Bassett. I mean, so I'm playing 3-on-3 with Michael Jordan, Dean Cain, a couple other guys. This is like the run before the run. We're just kind of getting warmed up. I didn't play with them. I'm like 40 years old. My son, Chris, he was playing for UCLA. They invited the UCLA players out there to play with them, right? Yeah. Michael did. His people did. Mm-hmm. And so I'm out there every day just kind of hanging out watching. So I'd play once in a while. I'd play some 3-on-3, real casual, just a kind of a warm-up game. So at the end of this 3-on-3 game, I dunked the basketball. So Michael's like, "Come on, old man, don't be dunking out here. You know that wasn't part of your game." I was like, "Look, Michael. Whatever I was doing when I played, you had my poster up on your wall in North Carolina. So I must have been doing something right." And he just blushed and just grinned. "Oh, you got me on that one. You got me on that one. Yeah, I sure did, man. I used to love your game. So I knew about that. I'd seen the poster on his wall, this iconic picture that they post all over social media with him with an umbrella and looking goofy and all that. But my poster, Kareem's poster, up on his wall in North Carolina. But when he actually said that and verbalized that during the last dance, I kind of got a chill. My son had actually sent that to me. He had gotten hold of a clip before the broadcast and sent it to me. He's like, "Dad, you can't share this, but check this out." I'm like, "What the hell is this?" Then when he says, "Yeah, I like the Adidas, I like Marques Johnson," So when I actually heard that, man, that was a big one of my basketball highlights of my life, to have one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all times, non-center at least, make that kind of a statement was a thrill for me for sure.
Yeah. Well, you've also done a lot of acting, and White Men Can't Jump is an awesome role. Raymond.
Yeah.
That was,
I forgot about
iconic at the time. What do you remember about making the movie? And it's that's good acting, because Raymond's nothing like you.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because we had a great time. Woody Harrelson, Wesley Snipes. Woody was a gym rat, could play a little bit. Wesley was a great athlete, could stand flat-footed at 5'8", 5'9", and grab the rim with two hands easily. And so, but just making the movie was a lot of fun. But it's funny, for years, I think in the 90s, that movie was made in around 90, 91, late 90s. I'm at the Wooden Awards. Grant Hill and a couple other great college players are there. Just a room full of high school and college age athletes and their parents at the LA Athletic Club. And so I get up to the microphone to speak, and I'm like, "So does anybody here remember anything about my basketball career?" So nobody budged. Nobody said a word. I said, "Well, does anybody remember me from the role of Raymond in White Men Can't Jump?" And the room just lit up. They stood up and applauded. "Oh, man, that was you." Oh, So that's kind of, and that was a long time ago. And I get associated with that all the time, which is cool. Yeah. But acting is not, I wasn't some Johnny come lately. I was doing plays in middle school and high school. I was Little Abner, and Little Abner, I was Conrad Birdie and Bye Bye. So acting I was a theater arts major at UCLA, did plays and TV shows and the whole shot in college, and produced and documentaries and the whole deal. So it's always been a part of me in terms of who I am, and to be able to pursue it to the degree that I have post basketball, it's been cool. It's been fun.
Let me ask you about Nick Nolte. Was he as big a nutburger back then when you did Blue Chips as he is now?
No, I mean Nick was cool, man. I love Nick. I mean, he taught me a lot about in terms of just an actor's preparation. You go into his luxury trailer. You know, we all had the smaller. We had nice trailers ourselves, but he had the big, the big luxury deal. But
Mhm.
he had posted up all over his trailer on his walls, taped up to his walls, thumbtacked to his walls, just different Bobby Knight sayings, Bobby Knight practice drills. I mean, so his preparation was just crazy. Spent like I think a month in Indiana watching him practice, watching the review film, that whole deal. And great guy. I mean, loved. He had a great time with him, and we had a bunch of fun doing that. And he was just, and he leaned on us because we were the basketball experts on that level. And so Pete Newell was one of the other guys who played a team physician, but he was there every day, worked out Shaq on his footwork drills every day. I'd sit there for 2 hours. That was in Shaq's contract, and watch Pete work with him on different drills. So just from a basketball standpoint, Bobby Hurley, Rick Pitino, Dick Vitale, I can just go down the list of people I was able to interact with
Yeah.
during the course of that movie. That I mean, it was just a really unique experience for the 6 weeks or 2 months that we were able to shoot that.
Yeah, that's cool. Um, you are the only, I think, still the only person to have won a national championship at this school as his son. And Chris has a son, your grandson, playing at Oregon now. And that's probably, as a grandpa, got to be pretty cool to see your grandson playing high level Division I basketball in the Pac-12.
Yeah, it is, man. And look, he has had tough luck. Hurt his knee at the start of the season last year, so sat out all of last year with knee surgery. But he's just one of the hardest working young men. From where he has come as a freshman in high school at 13 years old, he was young, scrawny, 5'8", 5'9", 130 pounds, dripping wet maybe. But he worked on his game to the point. By the time he was a senior at Palisades High School here in Los Angeles, he was first team All City 2 years in a row. MVP of his league that has the Fairfax and Westchester, two powerhouse programs in Los Angeles with great players. But he was the MVP of that league. And so I'm just really a great student, great young man. He continues to work. He may have a future in coaching or somewhere in basketball. He does these breakdowns on Instagram of just kind of unheralded players around the country. He'll get some footage and from Synergy or somewhere and break it down. And so I'm just really proud of him for the job he's done.
That's cool. I'm going to ask you one last thing before we go. And again, I can't thank you enough for doing it, and you're generous with your time. But for the young guys that are watching, and there's a lot of them in Jamaica, and I know this because of the camps that I do down there. You work on a daily basis with arguably the best young basketball player in the NBA, the Greek Freak. Tell me about him, and tell me what it is up close that makes him so special.
Well, I've been fortunate to be around Giannis for the past 5 years. So he was like 20, turning 21 in December, I think, when I first started working with the Bucks. I've really watched the evolution to superstardom of this young man, and it's it wasn't a given, but it's not surprising either because of the tools he was blessed with, the incredible size and hands and quickness and ball handling that he possesses. But he has taken those basics that he's been given and just enhanced them. Hard work, discipline, dedication. He stays in the gym year round. Has to get a couple of years ago but missed some free throws late in that game. I think we still won the game. So I'm walking back to my car in Milwaukee in the dead of winter in January. It's probably and with just an undershirt on and some shorts, and he's tall and he's black. So I'm like, who is this crazy brother walking around half dressed in this kind of weather? And so he was darting in and out of the crowd, and I looked closer, and it was Giannis, who was running over to the practice facility right across the street to work on his free throws. And so, and that got, nobody knew about that. It wasn't like it got publicized, but that's just the kind of mindset that he has. And here's the deal. So my acting background, I'm always kind of being about the backstory. You develop a character, you want to know what makes them tick. So you make up a story in terms of just where they came from and what their parents were like and all that. Giannis's backstory, his legitimate backstory. Here's a young man at 13, 14 years old who was out in the streets of Athens, Greece at 3 o'clock in the morning hawking trinkets to tourists. And so, when you think about where he's come from and the poverty that he had to face and deal with, he's one of these guys who is so grateful for everything that he's gotten and who is not satisfied with his status as an MVP. He's like, don't mention MVP this season until I win it again. Then we can talk about it. But until that point, I'm striving to get better each and every day. It's a perfect marriage between he and Coach Budenholzer in terms of their approach. Coach Budenholzer coaches him up. He gets into him. He doesn't let him slack off, which is a good thing for Giannis, keeps him motivated. But I'm telling you guys, he is as legitimate, as genuine as they come. It's been just a marvelous pleasure being around him and to watch him just kind of, just go through this metamorphosis from a really solid, good young talent to one of the top players in all of the world. And it's been because of his hard work.
Yeah. It's just cruddy because you guys were having such a great year. And who knows what will end up happening, but
yeah, 53-12, baby. But hey, I would like to see them put it together so they can finish this thing off in a way, as long as the health issues are kind of taken care of properly. But you're right. I mean, 53-12, and it actually hit a little bit of a rough patch over a 3 or 4 game period. But a lot of it had to do with us just playing such great basketball all year long. It was bound to happen. They were resting guys, but maybe we'll reconvene in Vegas or Orlando or somewhere and get a chance to put a period on this season. We'll see.
Cool. MJ, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for doing this. Sorry to keep you so long, but I mean, I could have gone another 3 hours.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff to catch up on, and hopefully we can set you up with a Jamaica basketball shirt, and you can become fan number 1.
Sounds good, man. Good luck to you with this Jamaica national team. You're gonna have the best time of your life doing that, man. And sounds like it's gonna be fun for you. So happy to do it. And thank you, Rich. Also, good meeting you too.
All right, be well. All right.
Appreciate it.
Okay, guys.
Yep. Talk to you later.
Take care.
Yep.
Bye.
The best. As I said, he's got stories for days, and just an awesome, talented, great guy.
I had forgotten about some of the acting stuff, but it's funny how for him, think about it coming, full circle. Guys that had maybe forgotten what a talent he was, and then the best best player in the game says that was his idol. Anyway,
yeah,
it's good stuff.
Richard, thank you, appreciate it, buddy. Talk to you later.
You bet. Take care. Bye.
All right. Thanks for checking it out. Thanks again to Marques for doing it. And we'll try to be back with it on Friday. We'll let you know who. Stay tuned, Facebook and YouTube, and make sure you tell people about it, share it. And the more people we get, the further we can go. So we'll see you on Friday. Thanks.